stopping the administration of the vaccine when there is globally a 12% increase in COVID cases, particularly concentrated within Europe, where a third wave is descending. And we see that there is globally 2.6 million deaths associated with COVID, and that's probably likely an underestimate. 300 million vaccines of all kinds have been given, and zero have been directly linked to deaths. So in this instance, although these countries' regulators are doing their job, there is also an argument to be had around the fact, is this causing more harm than good, in the sense that deaths in Europe are still occurring. The vaccine rollout has been problematic and slow for a variety of reasons. And that means that this could prolong the number of infections at a higher rate, meaning more variants that we need to keep an eye on, particularly in the UK, as we're just next door. And equally, the UK has also been a good fertile ground in terms of evidence base. So we have had more AstraZeneca vaccines in all of Europe, over 11 million. And in those cases, there have been no more blood clotting than in the population.
Oksana, how does the ratio of this blood clotting compare with other drugs in the market?
Well, if we, for instance, look just within the UK and EU, 17 million doses of the AstraZeneca jab administered, 40 cases are being investigated related specifically to blood clots. Now, if we compare to other drugs that are very commonly used, for instance, the birth control pill, combined oral contraceptive, we see that blood clots occur in 1,000 women. So if we put that figure in context, we see that our appetite for risk really in this instance has been skewed. So I think it's really important to get some kind of grounding base around the fact that with all medicines, there is risks versus benefit, but what does that risk actually look like?
Although vaccine experts from the WHO are set to meet later today, does this signal a shift in their tick of approval of the vaccine, or are they just wanting to come together to make sure this is the right path ahead?
Well, the picture is changing daily, and with the evidence and the various data that will come out from these populations, it is important that they continue to pay very close scrutiny towards this. So again, it is good news that they are meeting to review this and to really have a deeper understanding of what these issues are and then what the appropriate action could be. But again, we would expect to see, particularly in the UK, more cause for concern. And my if we think about this at the broader level, there has been so much politicization around the AstraZeneca vaccine, particularly not too at the beginning of the year when we had supply problems into Europe and the backlash that this caused within the EU. We heard from President Macron saying that there is no efficacy, that there's limited efficacy in over 65, completely unfounded statements. And then, of course, this was later reversed, but that did cause some damage. There are doctors and nurses in Italy and France who are now petitioning and demanding mRNA vaccines over AstraZeneca. And this type of narrative is going to stick across the population because the general public isn't going to be diving into the pharmacovigilance data. There's going to be, well, what is going on with this vaccine? There seems to be always this flip-flopping back and forth. And in Europe, where there is already lower vaccine acceptability and hesitancy than in UK, I do see that this could have unintended consequences by further confusing the public.
Oksana, the WHO warned from the very beginning against vaccine inequality, but what we're seeing playing out is dramatic. The vast majority of more than 80 million COVID vaccines worldwide are going to countries like the US, China, Israel, the UK, Europe, countries that can afford it. How do we make sure it's more equitably spread?
Well, part of this is actually around ensuring that we can scale up the manufacturing. So there is a huge global demand on a level that we've never seen before. So we need more manufacturers to be participating in making these vaccines, particularly on the ground in low and middle income countries. And we're just not seeing that happen. And that's for a variety of reasons. We have heard from the WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros, pleading with the United Nations Security Council to back a waiver for the TRIPS agreement. This agreement is specific to the intellectual property of the vaccine so that other manufacturers could make it. And that includes technology transfer and voluntary licensing. But there's been huge resistance amongst many countries for that level of sharing. And other countries have, for instance, the UK, the US, they have financially been huge contributors towards COVAX. And COVAX is the arm of the WHO that is funding and financing the delivery of vaccine. It's an end-to-end program. But that money, although it's desperately needed, does not actually translate into jabs and arms.
Good to talk to you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you.